Hello again, this is a continuation of the HTML tutorial from AHSS, third year course at the University of Guelph-Humber. If you haven't already, please follow through with HTML Part 1, the other YouTube video. What we're going to do in this video, I'm going to shorten it a little bit, and it's just going to be working on the header of our document. So we're just going to be working on this header piece. What we're going to eventually get to is something that looks a little bit more like this, with a different color background, a logo on the top left, and navigation across the top right. To recap where we are, we've built out these 4 separate content areas. The colors are just placeholders, and these words are just placeholders for now, just to make sure everything lines up. The folder itself has 2 files in it, the about HTML and the website style.css file, and they're both open in Dreamweaver. Okay, so to get right to it, we're going to start adding content to the header. We're going to add what I call a logo to the top left, and for the purpose of this assignment, it's just going to be your name. We call that class logo. Leave a note to be able to see where we are later on. And like I said, for the purpose of this assignment, it can just be your name. In a later video, I will show you how to add an image as a logo if you'd like to, but for the purpose of this assignment, your name is fine. So I'm going to preview this in the browser, and everything is good so far. We've added the name properly. The next thing I want to do is change some of the properties of that. So I want to, for example, change the color, and to do that, we have to add a style for it. In CSS, it doesn't exactly matter where you put the different styles, but I like to group things together, so I'm going to put mine right underneath the header, and I'm going to say logo, and the color is equal to, color is equal to white. Finish off the line, test it, and it's properly changed, so the CSS style has been properly applied. Next, I want to add the navigation. Call it navigation. Again, leave some notes. And in this navigation, here I'm going to write the 4 different pages that we're building. So we're building a home page, an about page, portfolio page, and contact. Save that. Make sure it came in the browser alright. So you'll notice one thing. In HTML, we made these 4 separate lines, but because we didn't actually add line breaks, it's showing up on the same line in the actual browser. That's fine, that's what we want to see. Just note that because we didn't add a line break is why it's not showing up the exact same way here. So next, let's change the color of the navigation. You can do that by going in CSS and adding a navigation style with the color equal to white. Close that off and refresh the page, and everything is working properly. This is a good time to get rid of this little word header here. We just had that as a placeholder, some dummy text inside the header div. So I'm just going to delete that and save that. Okay, so we have this in the top left, that's where we want it to be, and this we actually want to push over to the right hand side. Look what we're working towards. Logo on the left hand side, navigation on the right hand side. Right now they're on 2 separate lines. To do that, we actually have to add another special element, special style into the style sheet. We're going to float these So using the float property, we're going to float the logo to the left-hand side of the page, and the navigation we actually want to put to the right. So we're going to float that to the right-hand side of the page. You'll notice that, or you'll remember that inside the HTML document, the logo div is inside header, and the navigation is also inside header. So that float property that we just put on means that the logo is going to float to the left-hand side of header, and the navigation is going to float to the right-hand side of header. So if I refresh this, that's exactly what we're looking for. Next, I want to change the let's change the font style. So in class we spoke about web-safe fonts. If you do a search for web-safe fonts, you can read w3schools.com. They have all of the web-safe fonts listed. What a web-safe font means is a font that will show up properly in just about everybody's browser. So if you're working with some kind of crazy fonts, the person viewing your page might not have that font installed, and then it won't properly show up. So these are some pretty safe ones that you can use. I'm going to use Verdana in my case. So I'm going to change the logo text to Verdana by saying font family is equal to Verdana, as well as same thing in navigation, font family, Verdana. Save that, preview it, and you can see the font change there. The size of these is actually quite small, so I am going to change the logo font size to 36 pixels. Preview that. That looks good. That looks about the size I want it. And I'm going to change the navigation size to maybe 20 pixels. That looks about good too. So the next major thing is they're not exactly lined up where I want them to be. This one is pushed up to the right top. This is pushed up to the left top. What I want to do is add some extra space. So I want to add some space between the logo and the top of the header here, and between the navigation and the top of the header there. To do that, we can either use margin or padding. In this case, we're going to have to use margin because we want to add some space on the outside of this logo div. If we wanted to add space on the inside of the logo div, we could use padding, but we want to use margin. So in this case, I'm going to move the margin top. Let's start it at 10 pixels and see how that looks. That looks pretty good to me. I also want to move it away from the left-hand side, so I'm going to give it a margin left value of 10 pixels as well. Refresh that. I'm going to do the same in the navigation. If I give it a 10 pixel top margin here, it's probably not going to be enough because the font size is quite a bit smaller. So I really want the bottom edges to be lined up. So why don't we try 20 pixels? Sometimes it is just a matter of moving it around, experimenting a little bit, and see how it works out. That looks pretty close to me. So I have it set at 25 pixels in my case with the font size and font family that I'm using. If you're using different font size or different font family, probably be a little bit different. Next I want to add a margin to the right hand side, give it a little bit of extra space, and keep it consistent. Use 10 pixels because I used 10 pixels on the left of the logo margin. Refresh that, and everything looks pretty good. The next glaring thing is I'm going to change the background color of this. In a later video I'll show you how to add a background image. For the purpose of this assignment, we can just use a solid background color. I'm going to change that property in the header of the CSS document. If we go back to HTML for a second, the logo and the navigation are inside the header. So if we change the header background color, I want to do a dark gray, and I refresh that. That looks good to me. So next we want to add some navigation elements to here. Right now these are just words. If I click on them, nothing happens. We want to actually make that into a working navigation bar. To do that, we just have to add the link to each one of these words. And remember, adding link is just using an anchor tag and wrapping it around that word. So right now, this is applying a link to the word home. We don't actually have that file in existence yet. We haven't created the home page yet, but we are going to call it home.html. Remember this, remember exactly what you call these, and that's what you're going to have to name the next pages and save them as. In this case, we already do have the about.html page. That's what we're working on right now. And we're going to do the same for portfolio and contact and change it to portfolio.html and contact.html. Make sure to close off the anchor tags, the link tags. So right now what we've done is we've added home.html to the word home, about to about, portfolio to portfolio, and contact to contact. Again, make note of these different file names and remember them when you're creating your next 3 pages. So if we save this and take a look at this in the browser, before I refresh, you'll notice that everything still looks the same. Dark background, white font, but nothing is clickable. If I refresh the page, now the links work, and I mouse over them, the cursor changes color, but the links have changed color and an underline has been added. By default, when you add an anchor tag, when you add a link to something, it'll add this blue underline and blue text, but we don't want that to happen. To get rid of that, we're going to add a new style to the anchor. You'll notice that we're not using period to start because an anchor tag is an existing HTML element that we're not creating, whereas container, title, header, logo, these are divs that we created. They're not existing HTML elements, so they need the period to start. But in this case, we want to set the text decoration to none of the link, the anchor tag, and we want to change the color to white. So if we save that and then preview it in the browser, everything looks great. There is one issue though. Right now we've changed all of the links to white with no underline, but if we have content later on in the process, if we have a link maybe in the about page in your bio, it'll mean that the link will look the exact same as what we've created up here. So to do that, we're actually going to only apply this text decoration and color white. We're only going to apply that style inside the navigation bar here. So what we can do is just say that we're going to copy this navigation and we're going to combine 2 different elements. So navigation, when there's an anchor tag inside that, we want it to look a certain way. I'm actually going to go and just cut everything out of here and paste it into there and then delete this entirely. So what we've done is we have our regular navigation style, then we have a navigation style that only applies to an anchor tag when it's inside navigation. If I preview the page here, everything looks fine up here. and later on when we add a link inside content, everything will be alright and won't take that specific style. We can define a certain style inside there. The last thing we're going to do is add a link to the logo piece here. We can do that inside the HTML, and we're going to link that to home.html. That doesn't exist yet, but we will create it later on. And save that, refresh it, and same issue. We created the specific style to make the links not underlined in a font of white, but we only applied it to navigation. We want to apply something similar to this logo piece, so we can use the same idea in CSS by saying the logo style, when there's an anchor tag in it, we want to copy this exact same thing for now, saying that no underline, no text decoration, and the color, the font color to be white. If I preview this, then we're good to go now. So we've created the logo side, we've created navigation, we've added links, changed the color, and changed the background color. If I click on these links, right now it'll take me somewhere that's not found. That makes sense. It's trying to find home.html, which doesn't exist yet. Same with portfolio and contact. If I click on about.html is the actual page that we're working on right now. So it'll just take me back to this existing page. As always, if you have any questions, ask them in the comments, and if you know any of the answers to the questions, ask them in the comments as well. Over the next little while, I'll be putting out a few more videos that will go over the footer, the content areas, the title, and the background images, as well as linking up the 4 different files.